you only work on the master branch so far, right? And now I'm showing you that, hey, after yesterday, you fork from my master, from my repository, and then check out the master branch. I have a different branch. And in this case, let's say one day I want to merge from this branch into master. Using a pull request is a great way to have a conversation, to have review around the new changes. Okay? So I can explain what I do. So in this case, I'm not really explaining it, but let's say I just say add, add user. What did I do? Update Boomar. I can look at the messages here, to be honest. So add Facebook login. Add font awesome to display font. What else did I do? Sometimes it's nice to look through the changes and then update this. Oh, implement profile page. And then yesterday, what did we exactly do? We have add and remove friends, right? Right? Okay? And then when you update like this, sometimes you might want to add a to-do item for people to you add them, or you have it as not done yet, like review this pull. So it's quite cool, right? GitHub accept Markdown, and you can actually update your description. So next, I'm going to walk through the changes. We will learn to review yesterday's work based on this div version. And I want you to look through it, and just you can ask me later, you can compare with your own changes if you like. Now, yesterday, so what did I do after you forked my code? I realized that the Boomar version that we were using is older. So some of the new CSS thing I did is it need Boomar 0.5.1, and then you guys were using 0.4.3, so I'm like, shit, I need to update this. But we were using this gem that is outdated. So I fork that gem, and I put on my own GitHub, and I update that. So now I provide the gem myself. And in this case, the gem files, I say, hey, gem file, don't go to rubygems.org. Go here. Okay? So that's quite interesting, right? So we see that. Now then I realized that, oh, from yesterday I add font awesome Rails. You will revisit this a lot. Font awesome. And here's the list of icons you can use for your app. Right? So then it could be very nice, a nice way to place it there. I'll explain a little bit about the syntax and how you use it. I added jQuery back because Rails 5.1 doesn't have jQuery. And I was like, okay, I'll just add jQuery Rails in here. Alright, and then I add this for Facebook. So you read this, you can kind of understand. You see gemfile.log, ignore it, right? Because it just reflects what you do in there. Sometimes it's useful to see, oh, do you have any conflict in here? Right? Do you have any merge conflict? Did someone actually accidentally edit it? This file, you should not edit it yourself. It's always generated by Rails. Ian, did you have a question? Well, depending on people's naming convention, how many apps do you see on the wild right now with React Native? Do you know what version they are at? 0.45. Even it's funnier. React, it was 0 point something the whole time. I forgot what it was. And then one day they're like, let's release a real version for people who think 0 point something is not good. They just multiply the version by 100. We're ready, guys. We've been ready for years. People did not know. It's just under 0.1. Yeah. So it's really, yes, it's a good point. When you name something as 0 point something, it means it's still new. The 1.0 is a really good milestone. But sometimes, like Boomar, they learn a lot from Bootstrap. And even at 0.5, it's so impressive. It's not even funny. Like, it looks so mature and it's probably good for a while. 1.0 is when they probably think that I'm going to change the API big time. And then if you use it, if you upgrade, you probably will have to change a lot. That's the idea. All right. So two reasons why people change the big version number. They can tell the world, I go to 1.0, I'm super ready. Or you can say, hey, look, a lot of changes have happened, right? Bump the major version, which is from 1.2.3. 1 is a major version, 2, the number 2 there is a minor version, and then 3 is the patch version. That's all right. So good question now. Now let's also, for your homework, write better README file here based on the homework. We do write a few of those suggested features. For this homework, I actually expect you guys to prioritize your features. As long as you can keep them under required features and optional features here, and you can mark them. You think about what features I want the most, my users need the most, and put them here, and the rest you can dump them here and then mark them as done. Okay? But it's so important for you to think what is nice to have and what is really needed. Okay, so it's very nice to look at a pull request. You can see what changes people add to it. So for example, I added a logo file, and then what else did I do? Oh, I added jQuery, right, to this app, and this come from generation, so ignore it, right? Oh, I see. This guy implement when you click on the delete button of the flash message, go to the parent and then just fade that out. Okay, that looks cool. That's fine. And then this is a bit funny, but I just copy and paste from the Bulma page. It's really easy to write ourselves. But this is a raw JavaScript, very similar. The page is loaded, and then you can find the burger icon, and then if the burger icon exists, you will toggle the menu. Like you'll see it later. Like you show them, when the view is on a mobile screen, anything that's in the navbar menu will be hidden. So similar to Bootstrap, right? Bootstrap navbar toggleable. Here is navbar menu. When you hit the burger, it will open the burger. I will explain that next, but basically here's the idea, and it sort of makes sense. I scanned through. Reviewing a pull request is tricky because you always see this bar over here is really small. And you're like, oh, I just want to scroll to the bottom, right? Sometimes you review halfway and you're like, I'm going to review from bottom up because this is so long. It's really up to you, but the patience to go through it and not spend forever on one thing is also useful. So I go through this with you very quickly. Here's another cool thing that I did that could help you with your homework. Okay, this is called the SAS variables. So I define a variable file here, and it's like a partial, right? But this is the underscore here just mean that don't use this SCSS directly, but in Rails you never use them directly anyway. That's a naming convention, that's all. So when you import something, it will try to find this name or the underscore name. It finds both. But here, I define only the variables. I know that these variables, like navbar background color, navbar item color, navbar item blah blah blah, they're in the Bulma documentation. So when I import Bulma, now my navbar will use the color that I want. And I define a variable for my color. So I can just say, hey, color of the navbar should be this color. You see the blue color I used yesterday. And when you hover over it, you should see a white color. And this is the item, the text color. It's the white one. Bulma default navbar looks quite like this. It's just white. It looks quite indistinguishable from the body. Some people like it because it's simplistic, but it's not very similar to our Facebook clone. So we prefer it. Why are you smiling so much? It's very good to see you smile instead of yeah.
Question.
Yeah.
SCSS is SCSS uses JavaScript syntax?
Nope.
So why does that look? Why does your SCSS file look like it has jQuery?
This is, you have to use this. That's a variable name in SCSS.
So it's just accidentally
Yeah, in PHP, in SCSS, these guys, the variable name, you have to use a PHP. You don't need to, but it's also even in Bash terminal. So different, some languages use this as a variable name. In Ruby, is at. That's the instance variable name. In SAS, this is the variable name. So once you define this variable, you can use it anywhere. Now I use it to set a few of these variables. And when I set these variables, they are set again in the, they are used in a Bulma file. You guys don't have to customize this if you don't feel adventurous enough. And that's fine. Let me just go in here. Where's my navbar? Is it under component or elements? Alright. Now you see the navbar has the, by now, try to understand the hierarchy, right? This is the thing on the left of the navbar is always shown, like the menu here. And then this is the menu on the right hand side, which is this part. But then it has a left part and a right part inside a navbar menu. When you shrink the window, you see this is the burger. You see that? And when you shrink, they also display this icon. But when you don't shrink, they display these big buttons. Absolutely. Here, the burger by default is hidden from this view. But when you make it into the mobile view, then it's displayed. But you have to add the JavaScript yourself, and I just shown that. Okay? So now down here is where those who are adventurous enough, you can see the variables that you can customize. These are the SAS variables. So thanks for asking. This just means that Puma defined some color to be a white color. These are default variables in Puma. If you want Puma to treat the black color as something else, like a different degree of black, change it. But here are the things that we tend to override. So I can, if I like to change my navbar height, I can change it here. But you see in my code, I only change the color of the navbar and the color when I mouse over each item. Come on guys, not that hard yet. So see, this is, the height is the same, but then you see the color here is dark blue. So I use a variable here, like this is a SAS function. That's why SAS is like super awesome, syntactically awesome, because you can do things like you darken the color by 10%, so you don't have to really think too much. Set the color once, and then you can lighten, darken. It has, yes, function. A lot of them. So I just use the most simple one. You can invert, you can lighten, you darken, and there's so many more you can search. But I use that so that you can see my darken here works quite nice, right? Okay, so move on. Standard. By now, it's your SCSS file. You understand this, right? Just keep it to import other CSS file you have. Okay? The only new things you just learned is that you can keep all the variables in one place. In branding, yeah, sure. Like, definitely, you want to set the theme. If you want to customize the theme for your app, you want to set this primary. I name it here, but you might. Some people might want to customize Bulma primary variable itself. And if you customize this, then this is Bulma primary color, by the way. You see that green thing? If you change that color, it's going to change the entire app. So that's how you theme it. I don't want to mess with it. I just want to change the navbar, nothing else. Okay? Cool. Now, I added a few things where, like, the burger, if I don't change the color, it doesn't, so navbar did not give me the variable to change the burger color, so I have to do it myself. So I say, hey navbar burger, when you hover it, set the background color like this, darken it, but if not, and also the burger inside the 3 lines, it should be white. This is how so I also did the work for you already. So if you have a dark color layout like myself, you see these are the 3 white lines. Those are 3 span with a background. So normally it may be tricky for you to know that, but right, it's like, what? Like I said, 3. So they actually have 3 span, and then they style it to be 3 background pieces, like 1 pixel each here. And then I do the darken color. You see the hover. So I already set it up for you, and it's if you just change in your app, you see I'm using primary color again. But if you change primary to your favorite color like red or anything, boom, everything will just work. All right, and change the logo as well. Okay, so there's not much in here. There's a minor, some minor other things that I style. So not much. You don't have to worry about the CSS. Let's see. All right, I added this. By now, do you guys understand this? This is a authorization check, right? I add this to the page that display the users. I mentioned that yesterday. Today, we're looking at messages. Only people who log in can see messages. So for the entire messages controller, you need a before action, require login. Let's not support sending messages to strangers yet, because like, how are they going to read it, you know? Right, so let's not support that yet, right? Do we have an email to send, you know? How do they log in to see their message? No, let's not make our life difficult. It's not an important feature. All right, so review a little bit. Yesterday, you implemented yourself, and here's the code that I implemented. It's not the best. It's something that I did during lecture, but it works like this, and it's clean enough. So you see that, you know, I want friend ID, so I can create a friendship. I have user ID, so I can delete a friendship. All of that now makes sense? So you can revisit this and learn from example code. Sessions. So this is where your Facebook authentication yesterday worked. After you click on the Facebook login button, it takes you to the Facebook website. If you haven't logged in using Facebook, you will. Now, if you already have, then Facebook will just remember that and then go back to your app with a code, with a uniquely generated token that say, this code token, your app can use. And then your app will say, okay, this code, I use this code to go to, in the background, query, tell Facebook, hey, I have this code. Can you give me the username, user information, email and picture? And you can only use that code once. And then that's the omni-auth thing take care for you, so it's fine. It go back here and it hit this sessions controller callback, and then you can get the user information that Facebook returned you here. This make sense? Good. The words are not on my face, Queen. But I like the smile. That's good. Thank you. All right. So user controller index, nothing crazy here. We good? All right.
What is the update user?
This is how you update a user profile.
Profile.
So you can change your own name and email. Maybe you can write some description about yourself. Add a few description text in your own user model.
Can you change the password?
Yes. So for example, you could require the user to have to submit a password. So there's current password and all of you can submit that. You can check that. If you really try to do like, hey, enter your old password, update your new password, you can do that. The default way that I just update everything like this with user params, it allows you to change the password as long as you're logged in. So even if you're logged in and then you walked out and your friend come to your computer, enter a new password, that's going to be the new password. So sometimes if you want to be extra sure, enter your old password, enter your new password. And you can do that, but your update controller has to be more complicated. It will have to check for params old password, authenticate that. If that works, then now I will update the user. Okay, that answered Oscar's question, but if any one of you feel lost there, that's okay. Now, I add this extra thing. The Font Awesome Rails gem gives you this FA icon helper. So when you go into the icon here, you find this text here. You can search, by the way. Let's say you want to search something that has to do with message. Then, you can find some of these icons you can use, right? For example, I want to find a logout. So then here's called sign out. So that's the icon you can use. So in HTML, it's like this. I is just because it's the shortest text, you know. So then you can say sign out. It's an empty element like this. This will display the icon for you, right? But the icon gem, the font awesome gem, make it easier for you to type this. So you just type FA icon, sign out. And then that will generate the I blah 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 for you. Okay, so font awesome Rails. I will link to it in the notes. So if you're curious, we already imported in SAS. Weird, I did not see myself importing it. I think I did. All right, so you see that when you write this helper ERB, and then you can have it here, generated this code.
Actually, I have one question.
Yeah.
Related to this. When I have a Rails method, a helper like link2, and I want to include an I class inside of it, is it possible using the Rails method, or do I have to write that in HTML?
You should do it the link to the path and then do link to do block. Okay. It's easier to write that way. Absolutely, it's possible. You have to mark that HTML as safe. HTML safe method, okay. Or you put it in the link to do block. All right. It's really cool, by the way. With this font awesome, you can stack them, you can rotate them. It's pretty insane. So I think you guys will like it. Some crazy example. You can see it if you're curious. You know, you can just look at this HTML. Once you install Font Awesome, you can see the different sizes. You can, you know, make it rotate like this. So call spin on it. It will start spinning. And then you can do like, you know, here, yeah, so each of these has spin on it, right? So that's why you see spin, but they have different type of loading symbol. Huh? No need. This is just the standard font. What they use, I believe, is SVG, and then there's, you know, this is just animation, CSS animation. There's no GIF. So it's much more beautiful than you downloading a loading GIF file and including your app. This one, it will be high resolution, and you can go as you know, obviously this is zooming in, so it's not high resolution, but if you do, you know, very big like this, it will still look like high resolution, very sharp. Huh? Absolutely. Yeah, CSS animation. Okay, so no need JavaScript. Then you can even rotate them. You see this? But rotating is boring. You can even stack them together. If you have a square and you have a bird, you can put them on top of each other. So here's a bird in a square. Here's a flag and a circle. You can put. So if you have a band icon and then a camera, then you can stack them like that. Yeah. So you can explore these examples. They work well with, you know, popular ones. That's why it support like Bootstrap and such. So you can also do the star one, right? Obviously, because they have a star icon. All right. Booma works well with Font Awesome as well. That was one of the criteria for me to choose as the replacement for this class. All right. Now, this is what I do though. Booma, when it works with font icon, I'm actually gonna wrap the icon inside another span with a class named icon. And then I put the text in it. So I have a helper here that make it easier for you guys. Instead of using FA icon, just put icon name and text. So that's how you see this icon, users, and then friends here. Icon, in some places, like, I don't know, somewhere else you might see it. Here, all right? And if you doubt anything, just inspect the HTML and see how it's done. All right, this is the icon that Font Awesome does, but when you wrap it in a span icon, then it has the fixed width. The browser is already giving it this width, and it can be big like this. And so Booma already takes care of the styling. Just like you wrap your form element in control and input. So you wrap your Font Awesome icon in this icon class. That's all. So I create a helper for you. So these two things, right, they come for free. That's nice. But it gives you an idea of how you improve your app with this kind of helper method, so you don't repeat yourself. Cool. Yesterday we learned the friendship stuff, and it's a little strange initially to think about one-way friendship, but that's easier for us to learn for now. Yeah, that's just sticking with one-way friendship. That's why it's not implemented yet. That's your homework. You have to do it. But here you display the list of my friends, and then these are the list of people who friend you. All right. So that's a walk down the memory lane. Nothing big deal here. This is a small note. Sometimes Facebook doesn't give you the email of the user if you log in with Facebook. This is and then here it's just a made-up email so that it's it's a valid user account. It's a hack. So this is an OR symbol. Okay. Here's the first all initialize method. Is like you can try to find the user with that email, or you create a new one, but you don't save yet.
So, yeah.
And then you save down here.
I was actually wondering about that. So when we do a login, it's still called, right? This function. Or is it just for sign up?
Every time you log in with Facebook, it always calls this function. But if you're an existing user, then it can find it. So you're only updating that user. You don't create a new user.
Right. So basically, when we log in, but in the meantime, we changed the name on our Facebook, it's going to update.
It's going to update with the new profile image and everything. So now, sometimes you may not want to do that. You want to make your app faster and search, or depends.
Oh, and the password gets changed every time you log in.
Good point. So in this case, maybe you can put an or equal, so you don't change the password. But honestly, the password doesn't matter because you never use the password. It's just to pass the validation. Okay? Of course, you want to set this password to be a hard-to-use password because you don't want someone else to log in as this user email and then enter the password and then it gets in. So don't set it as ASDF. Does that make sense? Okay. Here's a little trick though. You guys sometimes really need to read the comment and also ask. And there's some learning values there. So if the user cannot save, then this returns false. And this is A and B for Boolean. So this method will return false. Alright? It means your controller will then say, okay, I don't have a user. Login fail. Okay? If the user.save returns true, then because this one is true, then it will also go to N and evaluate the next one to see if it's true or false. This one is not as easy as it looks, but just take a little time. And then when it evaluates user finishes, user is an object, so it's going to return this user guy. That's why in user's controller, where's your user controller? We can use, it's not here. I don't know, it's just not checked in here for some reason. In user controllers, session controller, I'm sorry. In sessions controller, you see, if this returns false, then it will go to don't log user in. This is not equal, okay? This means you do this and save the value to user. If the user exists, because I just created it, or I found it, then I log that user in. But if it returns false, then this user is false, so this block is not run, but it will run this part. Okay? Now there may be some reason that something happens and then we'll display the error there. For example, maybe somehow there's an error in your code. You try to go here, but the Facebook token expires and then it doesn't work. Okay? Okay. Shall we continue?
How would it change if you left out that second user after? It would return only true.
Yeah, then it's bad. Then you cannot use the user outside. Technically, then you cannot do this. Then you cannot set the session ID, session user ID. I'm just moving the logic into this user model. Alright? Ian.
Right, because user would only be true, and then you can't log in true. Right?
There's no true false, yeah. There's only false or user object. Similar to your authenticate method.
Right, but if we didn't have the
correct, then it will be useless. It will be true, and then I cannot log the user.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Now try to stay awake because it's super important to review. This is only reviewing, yeah, to save you guys time. So if you don't pay attention now, you just waste more time at home. Yes, Ian? No, Quy? The what?
The route ID, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't understand which method we put in the model.
Sure. So in route, you tell what method in the controller you use. So then that the method that you use for this purpose is normally called an action. So you always just like, okay, what do I use? Okay, if I go to this route, I get this controller and then this action, right? And then when you go in there in the controller, normally you write code in the controller, but it's very hard to test if the code becomes complicated. The reason why I move your question is that you don't know whether this code should be in model or not. This is just following the logic. If you don't go into this model, this whole code can be outside. This code can be in your controller, but it's very messy. That's the only thing. It have to be here. It's fine. Instead of this auth will be your request env omni auth.auth, and then everything will still work like this. But you don't want to read a controller like this. It's hard to test. Remember, you run Rails test. You can write model unit test. So that's why it says I'm going to find a user, right? So why not write that method inside the user class? Yeah? You don't want to have the code logic in the view. In the view, there's only each and if, right? Remember that? In controller, you want the controller to just load the user or save the data. If you want to do more complicated thing, maybe move it somewhere else.
So, variable is the variable we send from right to here. Is there any limit?
The variables, instance variables where?
Doesn't for the short function, can I just get array in the back and just get 10 of it, short array and send it?
The instance variable only exists in the action, and then only there it goes to the view. That's it, nothing else.
But we should limit it, I would just use.
How many instance variables in an action? Sure, it's up to you, but yeah, small. Your controller should not be too complicated. It should be an array or or an object. Okay, so these actions don't have a view, so that's why it's okay. Like I don't need any instance variables. But if I go to messages, I should not show you the code. Yeah, so. If I go to users, this is the variables. You see, Ian, each time you go into an action, the action is normally very small. Okay? Alright, let's continue reviewing. So the route, nothing surprising. I help you catch up with the code from yesterday, and then you start with this code. So this is just to help understand. We're almost there. I added the friendships table. All that makes sense in here? No big deal. Oh, that's it. We're done. Okay? Did you guys do the test method yesterday? Okay? Cool. And now I'm going to, you guys look so sleepy already, so I'll take a 2-minute water break and then I'll implement